American billionaire and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein running a sex trafficking ring. Underage girls were allegedly abused.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. Are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
And the DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable.
Former President Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. He is the first ever former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime.
Congratulations.
News? Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars.
Supposed to be sentenced for his 34 felony convictions. The former president asking the judge in his porn star hush money case to toss the convictions out.
And my fellow citizens, the golden age of America begins right now.
Germany is the scourge which will whip us up to a new greatness, to a new power and glory, to a Germany which for the first time shall fulfill what millions of our best through centuries and millennia have inwardly hoped for. A Germany of the German people.
Which one is it? Are you wrong now, or were you wrong then? Please explain, because we the people would like to know. We would like to know if there are rampant pedophiles running throughout the Republican and Democratic side of our government. Is that a thing? Yes or no? What it is, it's like the biggest manifestation of gaslighting that I've ever seen. So Trump and his administration are now saying there is no Epstein client list. Now, I just want to go through a little historical breakdown here, just to kind of go over everything that's happened since Epstein and kind of evaluate what people were saying, who was saying it, when they were saying it, and present some facts that maybe people have forgotten, because it seems to me that everyone has lost their ever-loving minds. And I don't know, do we all have amnesia? All of a sudden now good is bad, bad is good, left is right, and right is left. Who knows what's going on, but I have some facts to share with you and maybe it can shed a little bit of light on what's going on. I think there are two options. Option number one is that the Epstein client list did not exist. And yes, we had the flight logs that have been released in the previous case, but as far as a definitive list that incriminates people, that never existed in the first place. And then you have the other option, which is basically, well, the Trump administration is covering it up because Trump's on the list and he gave the orders not to release it. Those are basically the two options we're looking at. Now, an interesting fact about Donald Trump is that in 2016, a woman came forward. She accused both Epstein and Trump of sexually assaulting her. And then for whatever reason, these charges were dropped. And I'm not sure entirely why. Now, attorney Lisa Bloom said that she had received death threats and she felt for her life, and therefore she decided to not go forward with the case. Now, what's true in that and what's not, I don't know, but that is what has been reported. So are you saying that President Trump is actually a pedophile, that he would even threaten other people with death for revealing that information or trying to make that information public? Well, I'm not entirely sure, but one thing I do know is what Trump has said about Epstein, what Trump has said about women, and what Trump has said about even his own daughter, and those things are quite disturbing to me. Before we move on with this and get to the really meaty stuff, I just want you to listen to these quotes, and these quotes come directly from Donald Trump. I might display them on screen, and I don't want to read them myself, so I think I'm going to use AI, an AI voice recreation of Donald Trump, just so you can hear him saying it, because this is something that he either wrote or said personally.
I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy, he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life.
So that's a pretty complicated quote there. He's claiming to really like Epstein, saying that he's a terrific guy and that he likes women almost as much as he does, except he says Epstein likes them a little on the younger side. Well, how would you know that unless you had a pretty intimate relationship with this man? Typically, someone doesn't know the type, I guess you want to call it, a person that someone is inclined to be attracted to unless they've hung out with them extensively and witnessed them over many, many years and the types of people that you go for. So for Trump to know that Epstein likes him on the younger side tells me a few things. I think it implies that he knows that that's not socially or even morally okay, and while at the same time he's comparing him to himself, saying that he likes women just as much as he does. So if he's saying that he likes them on the younger side, and he's also making a comparative to himself, he's not explicitly admitting that he also likes them on the younger side. But I think there's definitely something to look into there. And just that statement alone is kind of creepy, but when you add in these next statements, it gets even worse.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the... You can do anything.
Look at those legs. All I can see is the legs.
No, it looks good.
I don't know how much more creepy you can get than that statement. It's very disgusting and it's absurd, and again, it starts to dig his grave a little deeper. Now let's go to the next quote.
Can you imagine how controversial I'd be? You think about Bill Clinton with the women. How about me with the women?
So there he's saying, as controversial as Bill Clinton is with the women, can you imagine how controversial I would be? And I think he's right. I think he's speaking from his own observation of his own actions, and he's saying, can you imagine how controversial I would be? Which I think is true, except for some reason people don't make as big of a deal about it. And then there's the fact that Trump, with his daughter Ivanka, just continuously says very strange, illicit things about her that make everyone in the room feel uncomfortable and should not ever be said about your daughter at all. And then there was a 1993 groping accusation, which basically there was a female that accused Trump of groping her at Trump Tower. And ironically enough, she was introduced to Trump by Epstein.
Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Then you have things where Trump is talking about, I'll be dating her in 10 years, talking about a girl, a little girl, I'm pretty sure, going up an elevator, which that alone is just baffling to me. And so you start adding these all together and you get a picture of, wow, this guy's really just a jerk. He's a freak. And he kind of falls in line with Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, maybe that's why they got along so well. Now, I'm not saying he's a pedophile, but he might as well be. I mean, he acts like a pedophile, he talks like a pedophile, and he walks like a pedophile. And one thing that I've noticed about Trump is that he projects a lot. The Epstein client list is said to be a list of damning evidence for people who paid for sexual service. So I guess that's the assumption, that it's a list of people who exchanged money for sexual activities with minors. That's the accusation. And that's what's being propagated and has been being propagated, interestingly enough, not from the left, but from the right for several years. So conservatives have been saying this. I mean, even people who are now in this administration, including Bongino, Patel, Trump himself, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, pretty much everyone on the right, even the Hodge twins talked about it, and all of the right-wing, I guess, political figures or public speakers or representatives, whatever you want to call them, the people who really had influence and a following, all of these people were calling for the release of this damning evidence file, which included the names of people who exchanged money to have sexual relations with underage kids, which is absolutely absurd, but all of these people were calling for that list to be released. And I think that it might have started off with just the flight logs of, okay, there's a list of people that were on his plane. Now here's an interesting thing about his plane. Bill Clinton was on the plane, he did go on the plane, and there's all sorts of testimonies about who did and did not go to Little St. James Island. Interestingly enough, Trump is one of the people who got on his plane, which his plane is called the Lolita Express, which if you know what that word means is kind of interesting to look into. So if that doesn't cue you in on who Jeffrey Epstein is and the people who just willy-nilly hang out around him, maybe it should. Trump has been confirmed to be on his plane, but no one has yet confirmed, I don't think, evidence that Trump went to Little St. James, his private island, where he would do all of these terrible things at. But if there's credible evidence that there are people in our government who have abused children, young girls, then not only should we prosecute them, but we should burn them alive. Hang them in the streets, rip them apart from, okay. And now it's being said by the very same people that there is no list at all.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands.
You got half of the administration saying that it just never existed and not acknowledging that they were wrong, but instead pledging their allegiance to Trump. But then Trump says that it does exist, that it's not being released because it's a phony document that the Democrats created out of nowhere to get at him. So what is that assuming? That's assuming that he's on this phony list, which has all sorts of implications there. And it makes you wonder what the heck is going on. It feels like Trump is worried about something and that he doesn't want it getting out there, so he's kind of literally backsliding super far and slinging the mud everywhere he can to get the spotlight off of him and onto other people. His whole administration, the way that they're acting and the way that he is acting and the way that they're flip-flopping from one view to the other and retracting statements that they once said and saying that's not what I meant when it was very clear what they meant because it was a question they were asked and it wasn't a poorly worded question and it wasn't a poorly worded answer. It was very explicit, but now they're backtracking saying, well, that's not what we said. What I said was this and it wasn't this. Well, then either you were wrong then or you're wrong now and you're covering something up. So which one is it? Are you wrong now or were you wrong then? Please explain, because we the people would like to know. We're not going to release these files. There's graphic images of, inappropriate images that no one should see. So why would you're just a creep if you want this file to be released? And it's like, bro, nobody wants to see that. What we want to see is that list of names. That's what we want to see. What it is, it's like the biggest manifestation of gaslighting that I've ever seen. It's absolutely insane to watch this unfold in real time. So now let's go ahead and go to the released footage. So now we have this released footage of 23 hours and 58 minutes or 59 minutes of footage that was released to the public surrounding the night that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. And it's like, okay, so the big thing is there's 1 minute missing. But the question is, why is there 1 minute missing? Now, they said originally in 2019, I believe it was, they said, well, the camera malfunctioned. And so there's some missing footage. That was their exact words. There was a camera malfunction, and so there's missing footage. Okay. Now in 2024, 2025, they're now saying that it was a routine restart of the cameras where 1 minute of footage was lost. Okay. So I work with cameras a lot. That's my job. Now, if it's routine, then it would be logged, and there would be usually, especially in prisons, there's usually another camera covering that, and the rebooting of the camera system that takes place, the footage will still be covered from a different angle of the same time frame. So you offset the restarting so that you're not losing data. I mean, that's just very common sense, I would think, when it comes to cameras, that you don't want to lose footage on something like a prison, so you're going to offset the restarting cycle. But apparently that's not a thing. And apparently there are no backups and there is no footage for the 1 minute that doesn't exist. Which, okay, I'm thinking like, how practical is it for someone to sneak in and kill Epstein in 1 minute? Could it be done? Sure, maybe. Not very practical, it's kind of just a minute. I don't know, we'd have to test it out. Maybe that's something we could do. Like, is that possible? But the biggest thing for me is the fact that it's edited in Adobe Premiere Pro. Okay, I see a lot of people commenting on this and it kind of gets on my nerves because most of them don't know what they're talking about. On both sides, and that's just me, a pet peeve, because I use Adobe Premiere Pro 40 to 60 hours a week, and so I know a lot about editing. Now, Adobe Premiere Pro is an editing software that's pretty much just gold standard. It's what people use for YouTube videos, it's what people use in the professional industry when you're putting together a documentary film. I mean, it's just an editing program, that's what it is. And with these programs, you can import files, edit them, change them, and then export files. That's what they're used for. But by definition, a file that was opened, edited, saved, and exported in Adobe Premiere Pro is an edited video. It doesn't matter if you changed it in any way. If you put it in Premiere Pro and exported it, it has been edited. That's just a definition. Raw footage it's the file that you get from the camera. So if you release the raw footage, it would be the file that you got from the camera. If you didn't release the raw footage and you released Adobe Premiere Pro edited footage, then it's not the raw footage. So if you want people to trust you, the reason that we don't trust it because it's Adobe Premiere Pro isn't necessarily because, oh, well, they're covering it up. Well, they might be. I mean, why would you need to edit raw footage in Premiere Pro before exporting it, unless you're taking it from one codec to another, which is totally a possible thing. But the Premiere project was said to have been active in editing for 3 hours and had multiple saves. Why was it edited for 3 hours? Why were there multiple saves? And does that prove that there's doctoring? I don't know. I don't have the footage currently downloaded and I haven't previewed it to see if there's any marks of doctoring. Generally, if something has been doctored, you can tell. But what I would like to know, and what I might do next, is look into whether or not there are multiple files within the metadata that were used inside of the Adobe Premiere file. Because if there are multiple files and it's not just that one clip, then that might speak to some doctoring. It simply not being the raw footage, but something exported with Premiere Pro is enough evidence to say, hey, no, this isn't gonna cut it. We don't want edited footage, we want the original file, so upload the original file. And I think that would kind of settle the battlefield. If you want transparency, then do that. Release the original unedited file, and I think people would be more satisfied. But there's all sorts of weirdness going on there too, and no one really knows what to think of it. So this brings me to my final conclusion. Well, first of all, we're seeing a completely unjustifiable shift from, like, it's a polar shift from north to south. South is north now, where they're not going to release the files, and that the files didn't exist and they were propagated by the left. And this is why no one trusts our government, because you can never do and say the same thing. It is a lying tongue. It is what the Bible condemns as a false witness. So my encouragement to you is, if you're a part of the MAGA movement, then reevaluate your loyalties. Many false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and will deceive even the very elect. And if you've been deceived, wake up. Okay, anyways, until next time. Disclaimer, real quick, or Jamie's gonna kill me. Disclaimer. Everything that I'm saying, I want you to know that I am a conservative. I'm not a liberal. This is not a liberal channel, this is a conservative channel, but it's not a traditionally conservative channel, because in my opinion, these conservatives nowadays are not traditional conservatives. They're very interesting. But moving forward,